Welcome back, everyone, to the Chatooine Show, the best and brightest podcast in the galaxy, filled with a wretched hive of scum and villainy. We're here Wednesday nights talking all things Star Wars, and tonight we're covering another episode of Skeleton Crew. I'm Star Wars Only. I'm joined with my co-host Lunga, Palp Memes, and returning to our show is our special guest Ro, little Scuttlebutt podcast. Another bad decision on his end. You know, guys, the drill here is if you like this or if you're listening to it later, leave us a like, help us out. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel, see future episodes of us covering all this debauchery of Skeleton Crew, and follow us on all the socials. If you really like us, leave us a super chat during the show. We'll answer any questions, or you can become a channel member. Ro, it's been a couple weeks. I think the last time you were here, we were talking about the Ray being the future, and there's like 11 movies in the works. I don't know if you heard the news that Jeremy Allen White is going to be playing the Jabba the Hutt kid from the Clone Wars. I don't know if you remember that, or if you remember Jeremy Allen White. But this is the biggest news in the fandom going on right now.
Jeez, slow news week. Must be a Friday.
So slow. There's nothing going on right now. What's your Star Wars journey been like since you left this show?
So yeah, I think that actor hangs around here doing his Bear television show here in Chicago. I do remember, what's Jabba's kid's name? Itchy, Booby, whatever the hell his name is.
Scratchy,
Scratchy.
Rada.
Rada the
Rada.
Hutt. Yeah,
Rada,
just
Rada.
another reason for me not to be excited about the Mando movie.
Thank you. Finally, someone's on my side. It's about time.
Oh yeah, finally. Yeah, you
Gosh.
finally get one. I'm glad you got your
I'll
little
take
movement going.
I texted my co-host. I said, I'm starting to believe that Dave Filoni is not the hero that we all thought he would be.
Been saying that for a long time.
No, you have not.
This little love affair you and Only were having on Twitter about agreeing on shit. That shit needs to end. You
It's old
don't
news to
enable
Lunga
him,
because I've been
bro.
saying the same things for years, and Lunga's
Don't enable
slowly
him.
seeing that I become more and more right as time has gone
No,
on.
you're not becoming more and more right. You're convincing yourself you're more and more right.
No, I've been right the whole
Listen,
time. I've been right the
Just
entire time.
because you find some people that may agree with an opinion, because that's how opinions work, right? You find people that agree with them. Doesn't mean you're right. Okay, let's just
First
keep
of
that
all,
in
Lunga,
mind.
I don't have opinions. I have facts. All my opinions are
right.
objective facts.
Right.
It is
right.
just true. People
Well,
are just
then you
now
gotta
waking
change
up
the
to idea
name.
Ahsoka's annoying.
And logo, like I said, to bullshit only, because we know that's what.
It's fake news
name
only.
is.
That's all it is. It's fake news only.
Oh yeah, fake news. Yeah, I've been right for years. People are just now coming around saying that Ahsoka is getting old, and I've also noticed a couple Star Wars YouTubers have come back since I made my comeback. Coincidence? I think not. But I don't want to give myself too much credit here for who has a heart
boy.
attack. So Ro, we did miss you for the past 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew that dropped last week. We're getting into episode 3 tonight, but kind of give us your initial take to those first 2 episodes and what your thoughts on the series so far.
Yeah, I mean, so far, so here in Chicago, we had a Fandango AMC theater preview, and I went to go to the big screen to watch the first 2 episodes. And I was mentioning that Star Wars looks great on the big screen. I think it belongs on the big screen. It's cool that we have the TV shows, but I think if you can catch a Star War on a big screen, do it. I was actually, I'm always excited when there's something new. I was very excited about the Acolyte before it came out. I was looking forward to that. Well, we know how that turned out, but I think I'm pleasantly surprised at how much I'm enjoying the show. The first 2 episodes were pretty decent. We gave it a good rating on our show last Saturday. And episode 3, I know we're going to talk about it, continues on that vein. But one of the things that I really enjoyed was the little actors, the child actors were really great. The characters were phenomenal. They really I really connected with them. And early on, I had posted on Twitter, I said, I know this show is not geared towards me as an audience, but I'm going to go in with an open mind, yada, yada, yada. And I think I'm wrong. I think this show is can be called, completely Star Wars in the fact that, Star Wars is about, wanting to go on an adventure. Us as kids, when we saw it for the first time, that's exactly what we wanted to do. Luke Skywalker looking at the twin suns on Tatooine, that was us, longing for adventure. And I think this really encapsulates that sentiment, and I'm really enjoying it.
I do like what you said about the acolyte. How like I think a lot of us, especially us on the show, we were really looking forward to that, and it was disappointing. I think that actually took away a lot of steam from Skeleton Crew. That's kind of my question for the panel, just to have a little softball opening here. Is do you think if Skeleton Crew released before the Acolyte, let's say they switch, we're getting the Acolyte now and Skeleton Crew back in like May or whenever the hell the Acolyte released, do you think things would be better? Because I really do feel like one of the reasons Skeleton Crew is not blowing people away is because people kind of tuned out after the Acolyte. Longa, do you share this sentiment at all? Do
I
you see
mean,
this as a possibility?
would it have given it a few more views for its premiere? Yeah, but I don't think enough to make a difference, honestly. I'm gonna be honest with you. A vast majority of the people who are angry about the Acolyte are people who wouldn't have tuned in for Skeleton Crew anyway. So there's just, I think there's a small intersection of people that it might have swayed differently or made disinterested, but I don't think enough to cause a major shift in how it was viewed.
What about you, Palp Memes?
I'm with Lunga. I think whatever audience this show would have had was already set in stone from the get-go. It's a very niche show. It's not very grand. I've said this for a while that this show's not going to perform well. It's just simply not. Like, this show can be Andor level of good. It's just not going to perform well because of the foundation of it. I'm not saying it's bad per se. I'm just saying it's not going to really resonate with your more general casual audience when it comes to Star Wars fans. I'm with Lunga. I think it's a matter of like, did it hurt? Did the Acolyte hurt potentially the show's viewings or outcome? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think the show would have done good either way, just because of the foundation of it and who would even, from a audience standpoint, who would be interested in it.
I disagree with both of you, but I want Ro to give his take first. Before
Well, you're wrong because you're fake news only.
Attempt to take on all three of you.
It's interesting. We get to, when we all witnessed The Last Jedi, and then Solo came out, and people pretty much voted with their wallets and didn't go see Solo. And then later on, when it was streaming on Disney Plus, people started watching Solo, and they realized, oh, Solo was fun. I wish I had seen it on the big screen. And this, a lot of fans fell off the fandom, and I understand why. I've got some friends that are no longer Star Wars fans after The Last Jedi. But I think I would want fans, if you're a fan of Star Wars, and for a lot of us older fans, we saw it in the theaters in '77 and have been living with Star Wars for since then. I I would always urge you to give a show a chance. Watch it. But if you don't watch it, then you can't have an opinion about it. You can speculate and say that it sucks, but I'm not gonna give you any street cred because you didn't see it. And I think there are aspects of fandom that they have been completely just used to complaining and not enjoying anything, whether it's Star Wars or Dune or Star Trek or whatever. And I understand the reasons behind it, but at some point, you got to take your blinders off and say, what is it that I don't like about this, or what is it that I do like about it, and talk to yourself and your fellow podcasters or audience honestly and say, let's chat about this. Let's see what's good. Let's see what doesn't work. I mean, we did it for the Acolyte. Everybody was talking about how there was kind of a story there. It wasn't presented well, and we watched it and we evaluated it, and on to the next thing. I don't know if switching the release order would have helped the Acolyte because it's still what it is. But I do feel that because of the sourness that the Acolyte has generated through fandom, people were not excited to go into the Skeleton Crew, and it shows. But I think in the long run, the first two episodes, there's a lot of word of mouth. There are a lot of numbers that back up the viewership, and it looks like it has been having a hold on fandom even more so than the Acolyte.
And I 100% agree with that. And that's why I thought this was an intriguing question because I do believe that if this had released before the Acolyte, the numbers would, in my opinion, inarguably be better. But like you're saying with the sourness of what came after The Last Jedi had an impact on Solo. The sourness people have with the Acolyte, I think, is having an impact on Skeleton Crew. And I think with something like this, it's so much easier to digest. And we're 3 episodes in. And I look back to where we were at 3 episodes into the Acolyte. It was a 3rd episode that you noticed a stark change in tone throughout the fandom. Everybody after episode 3 was like, wait a minute, what the hell was that? And you saw that in the viewership. And so when I look at The Acolyte, because it is the most recent Star Wars show that we had before Skeleton Crew, and then you look at Skeleton Crew, 3 episodes in, Skeleton Crew is pretty consistent so far. And we didn't really have that with The Acolyte. So I do think that this show would have benefited releasing a little bit earlier than The Acolyte, maybe even before Ahsoka as well, because I do think this show so far is not too shabby. But let's get into Skeleton Crew in episode 3 and everything like that. Episode 3 dropped last night. I don't know if you guys noticed, these have some weird ass names. I'm not even going to try to remember half of these anymore. It's not like chapter 15, the Jedi and Mandalorian and everything. This is like
They're
a
quotes.
long, far away.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like a mouthful, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But let's talk about our initial reactions to episode 3. I will say to start it off, I enjoyed it. It's about the same level as episode 1. Fun episode. Spent more time exploring the characters and fleshing out the plot points, filling us as the audience in on these kid characters, what's going on in the series. I think the show is written well. I think the characters are written in a way that feel real. All their actions and dialogues feel real, like real people you would know. The kids instantly asked Jod, like, why did you wait to break us out when we showed up if you could have always done that? And he simply says, well, where would I go without a ship? The simple dialogue exchange like that is good. You have the kids asking the same questions that we as an audience do, and the show is giving us these answers in a non-expositional way that is just Han Solo dialoguing for 5 minutes explaining what happened for 30 years. This show, in my opinion, at least only off the 3 episodes that we've seen, it has a great balance of character and plot. They give us a lot of information about Jod and the planet At Attin in this, but they still leave enough mystery on those topics to make you want to see the full story play out over the next 5 episodes. I think it was beautifully directed. I love the silhouettes of the kids and Jod with the gas planet in the background. My only complaint, before I throw this one away, is that I could definitely see the criticism of, you guys are on the moon, there's no atmosphere, and you have no helmets on or anything. Like, that was the only one moment throughout the entire episode where I was like, huh, okay. But now that we're 3 episodes in, I can confidently say I actually really like this series so far. I don't love it yet. This isn't Mandalorian 3 episodes in. I want a little bit more of that emotional pull or those big Star Wars moments that really feel like Star Wars. But the pace that it's going at so far, I think it's going to play out over the rest of the series. So I'm liking this. I think episode 3 was solid. Lunga, what was your initial reaction? Did you watch it last night or did you wait till today?
I watched it today. Last night was D&D. Tuesday nights I'll never be able to watch it on Tuesday nights shows because that's my D&D night. So I usually watch it in the middle of the day during my work break. So that's why I watched it today. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you. I'm happy. I was half expecting, only because of their history, I was half expecting another flashback episode. I'm like, please don't give me a flashback episode. Don't give me a flashback episode, please. And I did. We got it through not exposition dumps, but dialogue. You bring up the whole thing about, why didn't you leave earlier? And he's like, 'cause I need a ship. You said answering our question. That was literally my question last week. I'm like, why didn't he leave on his own? And I said, and I even answered myself, well, it's probably because he didn't have a ship, and that's probably why he didn't leave. And he literally says that in the episode, which I thought was a really great way of doing it. I enjoyed the comedy without apparent comedy of him going back to get Smee, to get back SM-33, because he didn't have to do that. The kids wanted to, but there was nothing from stopping him from just starting the ship and going. He didn't have to go back for the droid. But I understand he did it because he wanted to gain their trust more, because he wanted to find out where it at and that. And the way he's going through there with it and running into one of his whole crewmate and like having a casual conversation, like he thinks, all right, well, maybe he's gonna let me go, but then he doesn't. And just him going through the droids. You see the pit droid. Did we win? I mean, that made me chuckle. when
Right.
I remember pit droids. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the whole, you said you were a Jedi. He's like, I actually didn't say that.
Yeah.
You guys are saying, I'm just going along, So, it moved the story along. I like the inclusion of the little owl character whose name is escaping me, who's a regular human sounding name, but spelled completely different to make it not human. What was her name?
Kim, the owl.
Kim? Yeah, Kim. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like KYM apostrophe something, whatever. But yeah. So I enjoyed the owl. I enjoyed the way they're looking for stuff. There was a lot of things that I predicted as happening that did happen. They don't know about the rebellion. They don't know about the Empire, which I said most likely they don't know anything about that, and that came true. They even hinted when we were talking about, I go, when they were in school, they were talking about finances. I go, it seems like everything in their planet has to do with finances. They were talking about fungibles and how they do things outside of the barrier and how they do finance. And they literally said, well, what's your parents do? What's their job? They're an analyst. What are they analyzing? And then they want to get financial stuff. So it seems like their whole planet revolves around. So this has to be some kind of money enterprise or something that was hidden away. And I know we're going to get into it again, most likely. Only's going to go back with the Old Republic. And why do they say Old Republic? Because fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi called it the Old Republic. Okay? That's Old Republic is...
When you say
just like,
the Old Republic, we think
No!
of Smoke.
No! A game does not define the entire era. Fuck you and the game. I like the game.
A
I like
non-canon game,
okay?
by the way.
It's
Yeah.
thousands. Oh, fuck you with the canon
Doesn't.
stuff. We're not gonna get it. Anyways,
Anyway.
go on.
But they mentioned that they're still kind of in looking at that kind of stuff, and I enjoyed it. And it for me, the best part about it, other than all these little things I mentioned, is it moved the story along in a direction it needed to go, expeditiously but not too fast, and gave you some character development in the process. I saw more of KB, and she was kind of like being the rational one of the group, compared to where everyone else is kind of a dreamer. Neil just wants to go home and he's got a little anxiety. Wim is the adventurer. He wants to go out there and have fun. Fern, I think she feels like she has to protect everyone, but doesn't know if she can. That's what I'm getting from her. Whereas KB seems to be the calm, rational one. Like, we got to figure this out. What's going on here? And Kim gives her some advice and this and that, blah, blah. So I like that. I like how they confronted them too. So I think the episode did what it was supposed to do. And it's moving it along and it's keeping me hooked to see what happens next.
Pal Memes, what was your initial reaction to episode 3?
Yeah, I mean, Lunga said a lot that I was going to say about the characters and stuff. I don't have a ton to say about this episode. I will say I didn't like this. I didn't enjoy this episode as much as the first two. And, I can't really define the reasons why. I just found the first two to be just better in pacing overall. But this one was a nice stepping stone. It's a typical episode 3 Disney Plus series. It's just, the story moves along a little bit and stuff. They get some more exposition and information and stuff about how the story is going to continue on for the rest of the series and stuff. So I enjoyed it. I definitely like Jod's character. I'm really curious to see how they're going to go about him. He's obviously trying to get the treasure. I mean, I don't think any of us questioned that whatsoever. But I will say this is to call myself out, I was wrong. I was worried that the kid actors and the way they were written stuff was going to be awful, like pretty much everything else in Star Wars when it comes to kid stuff. But I'm wrong. I was wrong. I think that their acting is good. I think their dialogue is really good, and I think just the way they're written in terms of dynamics and their charisma and energy with each other, it makes sense. It's very it's consistent, and that's something I really appreciate when it comes to the show, because I understand it can be very hard to get that right when it comes to children actors and stuff, but they're making it work, and they're doing a really, really good job. So I have to give props to the directors for that, and that continued on in this episode. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far. I'm like I like this show, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I don't think that show's gonna reach that level. I think this is gonna be a very simple show with a very cliche simple ending, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not gonna say that's a negative thing, but because it worked with what the show is in of itself. But I mean, I don't really have any complaints. I thought I didn't really like the owl thing. It's such a nitpick, and it's such a subjective thing. I didn't like it. I was like, it reminded me of Harry Potter too much, where I was like, am I in fucking Harry Potter? I'm not even gonna lie. But again, that's a complete nitpick. I just didn't like how that was, and I found the X-Wings, the one thing that stood out to me, and maybe you guys can correct me on this, but the X-Wings shoot at the ship and then like let them go, and then they're like, well, we had to let them go because it's too dangerous. It's like, you just fucking shot at them, and now you're saying, what?
Well,
You know, so
remember,
that was
they
the
do
thing
know
where I
they
was
do
like-
know how to they do know how to shoot to disable. It doesn't mean they're blowing up the ship. They can.
Yeah, I bought what the X-Wings were saying, and my only
Well,
saving
no,
grace is
I
thought
can't buy
Carson
that
Telt
because
was
they
gonna
shot their
show up.
normal layers and then they switched over to their stun or whatever that extra one was. So again, nitpicks. I don't want to argue about it. Just stuff like that, stuff that sticks out to me sometimes. But it was enjoyable. I don't really have any major issues with it. I don't have anything to like really praise where I'm like, oh my gosh, that was fantastic. But it was fine. I enjoyed it.
It's consistent in its quality, and I think
yeah,
that's
in of
something
itself, I'm
we've
like, okay, this is
appreciated
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Ro, what was your reaction to episode 3 last night?
Yeah, I watched it last night, and honestly, I felt like I took out my Disney Fast Pass and I was on a ride from beginning to end. It was there was a lot there. The momentum kept you going. There was a certain motion of the story and the action, and it's funny. One of the things that this show seems to be doing right is, when you get into a show, it starts to get frustrating when each episode gives you more questions and answers less of those questions each and every week. Like The Acolyte did that. It gave you more mystery and more questions. Like by the time you were at episode
and answered
5,
maybe 1 out of 10.
right? By the time
And
you
then they
were
threw
halfway
Plagueis at the
through-
end.
yeah, by the time you were halfway through, you're like, you know what? I don't even care anymore. I don't even care anymore. So there was a lot of information that was dumped in episode 3, a lot of good stuff that gave us fans a reason to continue. Obviously, there are more questions to ask, but it did answer, and it I guess it solidified some of the speculation that we had about the planet being closed off and the kids actually belonging or living on At Attin and all that stuff. I think we got some really great answers. And the one thing that Lunga said about the comedy, I think the kids are doing such a great job too, and it's so kind of meta when they land the ship and they start walking and walking and walking, and then Neil goes, why didn't we just park closer? And it's like you have that feeling, you have that question, like in Rogue One when they landed like way down there and the troopers are walking. We're like, well, why didn't they just land closer to the homestead? So it's little things like that like keep kind of like a half cracked smile going on my face, which is really great. And again, I can't say enough about how much the kid actors are kind of growing on me, and I kind of equate this to when the Bad Batch first came out, I remember thinking to myself, the Bad Batch, why are we doing a series on the Bad Batch? Who asked for this? I don't want a show about the Bad Batch. And I started watching it, and the characters really, really grew on me, and it became one of my favorite Star Wars shows at the time. I even liked it better than Mandalorian. I think it was...
Ooh, you're not going to get much agreement on this panel for that one.
yeah, that's fine. But it's again, it's the kids are doing fantastic. I think this episode was fast paced. We had some really great moments, and I enjoyed it a lot. I think I'm going to give this one, when we do our show on Saturday, I'm going to give this one a little higher grade than I gave the first 2.
I'm torn on that because like I was saying with Pal Memes, of like the quality of this has been pretty consistent so far. And one thing I've noticed is that it's so easy to compare this to The Acolyte because not only did it just come out, but like you were just talking about, the mystery aspect of come episode 3 in The Acolyte, we get a big flashback episode that's supposed to like describe basically everything that happened. But it doesn't really do it. You actually have to go back again in episode 7 to do another flashback on the flashback. I don't think you need that with Skeleton Crew. And the way they're pacing and how they're explaining things, it gives you just enough information to feel satisfied, but not enough to make you want to stop watching. Whereas, like you were saying with The Acolyte, come like episode 4 or 5, you were just like, "I'm done. I don't care. What is this emergence in the Force? I still don't know. You know why?"
And they did it the
I still
opposite.
don't know.
If you think about it, they gave us the flashback as the first scene of the first episode. That was the flashback.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
and the flashback set up everything instead of, okay, now we got to go back here to explain what's happening. You know, it's like we all knew. Okay, Solo is obviously Jod. It's
well, and it's stuff like that that I enjoy about how it was such an easy and obvious reveal. I did not want to spend 8 episodes wondering, oh, was Jod the guy from the beginning? It's not worth dragging out for 8 episodes. But one thing I've noticed about the series, comparing it to The Acolyte, it almost seemed like you were looking for things to like. It was really hard to find stuff that, okay, well, I understand the story's not that great, but the way Chimere entered into the scene was beautiful, floating from behind and all that, and the lightsaber fights were all that cool, but the story was kind of weak. This show, it's almost like you're looking for things to critique and nitpick. You know, my real only nitpick for this entire episode was they just walked out on the moon with like no atmosphere. I mean, I guess it's Star Wars.
Are we gonna go back? Yeah, dude. Endor was a moon. It wasn't a planet. The moon of Endor.
Endor had an atmosphere.
They obviously had an atmosphere if they were standing on it. I don't understand
what an atmosphere. You normally
What are we really getting into this? Come on, guys.
We have jumped a shark when only says it doesn't look like an atmosphere. When an atmosphere is air, it's invisible.
Yeah, but the sky is blue, Lunga.
Yeah, you can go outside and see an atmosphere almost on any planet.
You know what? Go look at the rover videos from Mars. It looks like Earth sky. Okay, and the atmosphere there is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
No, it has no. Really? No, Mars has like almost zero atmosphere. It has a very thin layer.
Atmosphere than a fucking moon.
Oh my god.
Anyways, like I said, it was a nitpick, and you fell for the bait to get into it. It's a dumb nitpick. That's the only one that I was like, all right, this is a little whatever. But yeah, like I was saying, you're looking for stuff to complain for in this show. I don't think you have that problem in The Acolyte, which I think is a very good thing. But I want to talk about really quick is the parents in this, because it was like the very first scene. It was a very small part of the episode, but I think it was very important at the same time to kind of introduce the parents and see what's going on their home planet of At Attin. Some things were kind of revealed. Like I think they touched a little bit about the fact that what's Fern's mom's name? Farah?
She's the superintendent or whatever. Not the supervisor, which I have a theory on too, but
yeah, see, and that's the whole thing, is that she even says, like, I need to make an appeal to have a meeting with the supervisor. So there's someone above her, which in the first episode you thought she was kind of the top dog and everything. There's also supposed to be a lot of hoopla about the two moms in this episode, which thankfully was not any hoopla at all.
Exactly,
like, it was dumb.
What I said. It was just okay. She has two moms.
Them
That's
being
it.
there, yeah.
That's
them being there, yeah. So it was
okay.
I was really happy to see that. But yeah, Lunga, what did you think about that opening scene with the parents and like? That has like a lot of
I was very disturbed. I talked about it with Ro on Twitter today. I saw a couch. There was couches in Star Wars. Okay,
And the couches made him gay.
It made me gay. Yeah, I suddenly felt like I had a sense of style, and I liked Liza Minnelli. I'm very disturbed. No. I mean, the scene was okay. I would have rather not have the parents. Any of the parents, not any specific.
Well,
ones.
there was a little bit of subtlety there.
But
the dad, you can tell that the dad was he knows something that maybe the other parents
The
don't.
scene was very intentional. And
He does seem extra nervous, right? He does seem like extra nervous for something. Like he knew that shit was there. and he knew what it was supposed to be, and then, you know, so there seems to be something with that there. But other than saying I'd rather not have it, I understand why it was there. It wasn't about necessarily character development. It was to give us this little low key exposition of what you know, it could be, or not exposition, but foretelling of what is going on. I believe, and I'll say it now, this is another prediction. I'm 2 for 2 so far. I believe the supervisor is a droid. I believe the planet is run by droids. That there is no terrestrial being that's in charge. It's whoever set this up back in the old Republic, which isn't 5,000 years ago only, that was set up in the old Republic, and they have been set on task, and they have just dutifully been on task and haven't questioned anything. That no one's come there, no one's you know, and a droid. It's what is it like? The people on the ship in Wally, right? Wally, where they're just right, you know,
Yeah.
something like that. You know what I mean? So that's what I have a feeling is happening with that, and that's who the supervisor is. And she's never talked to her, which is telling. Which she's supposed to be the top dog there. So they let us know, and we saw that, you know, KB's parents gave us the typical reaction, which like you're expecting, and they're like, "Well, the droids," and they're like, "What do you mean? There are kids. Sorry, we need to find them. Okay, break the fucking rules. Whatever. We need to, you know, our children are out
your
there.
Kids left the country. Can't get them back. It's like,
sorry, we
no,
can't. You
those are
know,
my kids.
extradition rules. You know, laws. We just can't.
Can I at least go get them?
Yeah. So you know, it wasn't too big deal. You know, it was, again, on surface level, you know, it didn't hit me right away, but like Rose said, you know, there's something going on with Wim's dad, that he seems to know something that everyone else doesn't know. I don't know how groundbreaking it's going to be, but but he knows something. So yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't protracted. You know, they came in, they talked to the parents, they dropped a few teaser lines that made our ears go hum, and then it went on to the kids. You know what I mean? So that was good.
How means what did you take away from that scene with the parents? Because I feel it's very important.
Yeah, that one guy, I forgot his name. That he stood out to me. Like the way he looked, the way he took his glasses off and stuff is intentional. These things are done on purpose. Wim's dad. Yeah, I don't know if we have his name or not. But
Tim.
no, I was just thinking, I'm like, well, if this is the Acolyte, the entire episode would have been these parents in this conference room or something like that, you know. And then the very last
and then
2
a
minutes, we get back
flashback
to
of that episode back with them
yeah,
again.
exactly. And so it's just, you know, it's nice to have this where it's like, hey, let's do this real quick exposition here, whatever you want to call it. Boom, it's a minute. Boom, it's done. We're back to our main plot. And so because of that, I really have no thoughts. I think people are complaining because apparently Visor Girls has 2 moms, and I didn't even freaking realize until I got online and saw people complaining about that. And so it's just, you know, I'm not going to get too much into this, but just, you know, it's just ironic seeing these people call their snowflakes and stuff. It's like, holy cow, like you guys are literally looking for things in detail to get triggered by.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
People who get upset by
that's
that,
nonsense.
It's like you getting triggered by the volume. Like you're looking for it all the time.
Exactly. It's like, no, I know this looks bad, so I'm gonna find it, and that's the volume, and it's bad, and it's because it's bad because it's the volume. Yeah.
And did you notice any volume scenes in this? Because I noticed like 1 or 2 shots.
Yeah, you know, it was there. It was there. I will admit, I had to watch this on my phone. So yeah, you know, and I do like visual design and graphics and stuff, so like I'm a little more keen for this kind of stuff. But I had to watch this episode on my phone during my break at work. And so because of that, it probably wasn't as noticeable instead of like my TV or something. But I don't think there's a whole lot to say about the parents that hasn't already been said. I'm curious on more so why they're going to droids, and if so, who's in charge of those droids essentially, or is there even anyone in charge? Is it like a you know?
It's like I said, it's Wally. It's just the droids running stuff.
They
were set on program,
died, and then they
until they hear otherwise. No, whoever set them in place obviously fell apart because we had the original trilogy, prequels, the original trilogy, all the stuff that happened, and they got forgotten about because they're a lost planet. Mm-hmm. They're one of these jewels of the old Republic that were hidden away, and they were forgotten about. So the droids are droids. They're going to stay on program. They're just going to, until they hear otherwise, they're going to keep running it the way it's supposed to be run. So.
That makes a lot of sense, honestly. Ro, do you agree with Lunga's theory? What do you think's going on with the parents? Who runs the parents that run the kids?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to find out, at the end of the series, like what's going on with, I guess, with the governmental hierarchy of this particular planet. And are there other planets like this that, and it does seem like, there might be. When Owl Lady unrolled that scroll, that map, you saw 9 circles. And I just said, wait a minute, 9 planets? We have 9 planets.
Earth.
The start of the introduction of bringing, Earth into the mix into a Star Wars galaxy? Who knows?
God.
But
Didn't we talk about this on the show like a long time ago? I remember this being somewhere. I swear we talked about this in the Chatooine show. Must have been like 2 years ago about like should Earth be in Star Wars and stuff. And it's like an old, obviously far away, long time ago.
But they're doing it very meta, and Rose hit on it a few times. They like not just figuratively they're supposed to be us, they're almost literally us. These
Well,
kids.
that's what I was gonna say whenever we talk about like the couches and the cereal and the spoons and stuff. I'm like, well, I'm
Action
okay with it
figures.
now that we know like this is a complete separate dystopian society that has nothing to do with like the galaxy that we know, right? Which is kind of funny because in our like predictions video or stream, I was saying like I was predicting that Jod, he was from this unknown galaxy that has no connection to Star Wars, so he has the Force, but he doesn't know what any of these things are. Seems like it's actually the opposite. It's all these kids and stuff are in that sense. So I found that to be an interesting sort of idea.
And
I
they're
did
not
think
really
about
another
that for a while,
galaxy.
though, the
They're
galaxy
just these
aspect.
hidden planets.
Well,
within the
yeah,
galaxy.
But
separate
still,
from
even the
everything
way-
essentially.
Even the way Kim the Owl was describing things of like, there's these 9 Old Republic planets that are kind of like the 9 wonders of the universe, basically. And because of these planets' rarity and the mystery, they had to hide them. And then 8 of them got destroyed. And now you have just this one. So I think they're setting up a lot with that. Before we get into like At Attin and the great work and all that, I do want to talk about some of the characters that we were talking about, like Jod and the kids, because this is the first episode we really get a little bit of development with Jod. We learn that he actually is the pirate from the opening scene. We learn he's not really a Jedi. He was kind of lying to the kids. Lunga, I know you said, I think it was last week's episode, KB was like the one character that you kind of weren't like big on board with. I think this episode gave her a good amount of like character
Yes.
development. Did you
Keep-
like
totally
that?
agree.
You keep misrepresenting what I said. I said I like KB. I wish they would have gave me more because they didn't give me much with her. They fleshed out the other 3, but nearly not her as much in the first 2 episodes. Don't
You don't have to
misrepresent.
lie
I
to me.
didn't
You
say
don't like the silver hair. I
I-
understand, Lunga. All right, I completely
you're,
get it. You don't like kids.
You know what? You and your bullshit. I swear to God, bullshit only. Not what I said at all. I was interested in KB, and I wish they gave me more, which they did. And like I said, it made her, seem to be the sensible one. And it seems like she goes along with Fern, but we're slowly realizing she's the one who kind of keeps Fern in check. It makes sure she doesn't go.
Yeah, there's a time when they looked at each other before Fern gave an order, and it was almost like,
Yeah.
not that I'm saying that she was asking.
Right. What do you
for
think about
permission,
this?
But and that's another thing about the dynamic of the kids. You can tell that there's a connection between the girls, and then Neil and the other boys.
Yeah.
So it's really great to see that connection, and obviously, many episodes later, I think we're going to see, Star Wars loves this whole found family situation. So I think they're going to,
Oh yeah.
that is going to,
I feel it. Definitely. Wim and Neil is like me and my one friend who I still talk to. We every 3 or 4 months we touch bases. But he's my friend since 4th grade, and that's the kind of shit we would do, goofing around, playing recess at school or after school. That just like they did. You know what I mean? We played with the Star Wars figures. Literally, that's what we did too. So I do like that. And yeah, with KB, they fleshed her out a little bit more. I like the fact they're making her the brain, and not when I say brains, I'm not talking about the most intelligent one, but the most level-headed one, the one who's not getting carried away with everything. That's like, okay, let's think this through here.
I think she's the most
what are we doing
adult
here?
of the 4.
Yeah.
Because even with Jod, where let's I go back to the dialogue and the writing. Like some of the exchanges are actually really good. Where she's like, I thought about the possibilities of you being a Jedi, and no, you're not
No.
a Jedi. And he's like, well, the
I never said
galaxy,
that.
yeah, and even her running. One of my favorite scenes of this episode is actually when they all were escaping on the ship from the X-wings, and Jod's like, all right, Neil, you fly for a minute. You two, they're like nagging at him. He's like, shut up, get in this thing and start shooting. Like, I know you're gonna shut up once you get there.
Once you start shooting it,
but
yeah.
Yeah, but he never says anything to KB. I don't think he told her anything.
She knew what to do.
But KB,
No, she knew what to
exactly.
do. She was watching.
She
She was
knew
watching
what to do.
Horizon.
She got on the and just went and there's like a connection with Jod and KB of like almost like kind of if you have when you work with somebody like a mutual understanding of like, oh no like we got this, like we're good, let's
Yeah.
handle the situation together.
Yeah.
So I really like that about Jod and his kind of relationship with the kids so far and already, and just
Yeah.
the whole
And
you
I will
work for us, right?
pretty much, yeah. And I like how he's kind of going along with it, and it almost seems like he's not like that one who doesn't know what to do with kids. It feels like he's dealt with kids before in some way,
I
shape,
loved
or form.
when he walked in and he was like, all right, guys, it's time to get some sleep before we, get to the place and everything. And just all four kids are basically knocked out. And it's like, that's a smart thing to do as the adult in the situation. Just be like,
and he has to
"All right,
convince
guys,
KB,
nap time."
the ADHD one who's overthinking everything. Is like, hey, just go to sleep. You're gonna need
KB is Snoke.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Scars?
I can see it.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so
silver hair is hiding something.
and I still, despite everything they keep showing us him blatantly using the Force, I still think there's some kind of trick. I mean, Fern gave us all the options: strings, thin strings, all this other shit. Yeah.
And it's funny, when they were escaping, they were avoiding the guards. The first time.
Yeah.
When he
look,
avoided
KB
the
has a
guards,
Force.
He goes, yeah. Does that mean KB has a Force? So it's great.
Right.
It's like I said, there's a lot of like little meta discussions and little tidbits that are giving us a little wink, wink as the audience, but they're answering it in universe, and that's great.
Yeah.
It
And I
works with
think,
the
like I
show
said,
and it
he
works with
seems
the
to have been
flow.
around. And then, we got another alias reveal, right? Crimson Jack.
Right.
That he has another alias that he uses, which I
thought that
saw
was a
some
little
video.
too on the nose with Captain Jack. I was like, all right.
Well, no,
Right.
it's a deep cut. I said there's an old comic book, EU days, some Han Solo comic book, where he met some pirate named Crimson Jack, and he stole the money that he got from saving Leia from episode 1 or episode 4, and then Han Solo ends up killing him. So he's not him, but that the name is actually a callback to an old Star Wars comic. So they are using a Star Wars name for that, but EU name at that.
Fake news only, once again.
Yeah. But yeah, so
right about everything.
I am liking it. I think it's still smoke and mirrors perhaps with him, but also at the very least he's just Force sensitive. There's a couple things he could do. He never trained. He never became a Jedi. He's not lying when he's like, I never said that. That's what you guys said. He could have just been one of those kids, because Order 66 happens does not mean people were not born without the Force during those years.
Yeah.
There could still be people that had it and just never were picked up by a Jedi and never went through any kind of training but they're Force sensitive enough
But
and
do
learned
you
on their own
think-
to do these little things.
And I forgot, remind me the era here, but do you think if anybody would be using the Force, aren't there? No, I think I guess the Inquisitors.
This
are
is
gone.
Mandalorian era,
Yeah,
so it's about 10 years
this
after
is
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. So, and with his age, it does make sense that maybe he was born after Order 66, never had any proper training. He did say, I think that he had practice or something, like to do the noise to get the guards distracted and everything. So I don't think he's a Jedi. Of course, he's not a Jedi. He said it, but I do think he has the Force and he's Force sensitive. I just don't think he's had any like proper training. Pal Memes, what do you think about Jod? What do you think about him and these kids?
That's what I was gonna say. Is he's just not a Jedi. That's kind of what my theory was before, is that he is Force sensitive, but he obviously knows what the Jedi are and stuff. That I was wrong about that prediction and stuff. But I mean, I think what we're gonna have is a middle ground where like half the kids are like, no, screw this guy, he's a liar. The other half are like, no, he is a Jedi, blah blah blah. And then everyone comes in the middle and realizes, okay, he's not a Jedi, but he does have the Force, and so that's kind of how everything gets wrapped up. I mean, the fact that he didn't just drop those kids off and say fuck them kids and go on his own path after getting the card, that shows some actual humanity with him. He's not a bad guy. I don't think he wants to get the kids home. He does care for them to some extent, and I think that's going to be the sort of development that we get with him and the rest of the characters.
Well, I do want to get into this kind of the meaty stuff with this show and the big questions. And one of the big ones is that we haven't talked about yet is what the hell is this great work that they've been talking about. They mentioned it with the kids and school and everything like that. I think they mentioned it and this they said it to Kim, and she was like, "Oh, it's kind of fascinating and everything like that." I kind of following what you guys were saying earlier, especially about the money and all that stuff about all these parents being analysts and everything like that. I think the great work is them mining the shit out of some mint condition Old Republic credits. I think that is the goal. I think that's what all these people are analyzing or something. I have no idea, but
You think they come out of the ground as credits?
No. But they clearly have some lush resource of abundance.
I mean, that's where the ship was. you
Well,
know.
they're not all miners; they're office workers. So
yeah, I know, but they're analyzing things. I mean, they Wim literally goes, "What are they analyzing?" And he holds up an Old Republic credit and goes, "Money."
Hold on a second. Hold on a
Yeah,
second.
but
Hold on.
it's more Mr. Free Markets. It's more economics, market systems, financial
No,
systems.
hold on.
money laundering for the empire.
Didn't they?
Possibly.
We just asked like who would be mining, but didn't they say at the beginning of episode 1, whenever that when Wim was gonna like fail his test or something like that, he's like, "Well, you're gonna be working in the mines for the rest of your life," or something like that, something along the lines of some poor life. So maybe there's some sort of slave thing going on.
Well, no, that
underground.
was Fern making a joke about how he would be they put kids in the mines underneath the school, which is not real.
Right.
Maybe, maybe
Might
we
be
don't
a
know.
always
you
some
know, yeah,
truth
might be
in
a legend
legends.
or something like
We
that.
don't know.
Let me ask you this: do they refer to the great work singular or the great works plural? I
Work
forgot.
plural, singular, as
The
far as
great
I remember.
work singular, yeah, from what I can
Okay.
remember. So that makes it interesting to me because
So-
it's like, what is this great work? Like,
Right.
what are they doing on this planet? Not only to keep it secret, but to keep it running so well. And what's the purpose of hiding it? You know, we'll talk about the treasure aspect in a minute or two, but like, it's like a separate thing. I know they're going to tie in the treasure and the great work, but just the great work alone, they've constantly mentioned it, but we don't really get a lot of information on it. Even Kim, the owl, who is apparently from Harry Potter, was like, I don't know what that is, you know? So I think there's a lot of intrigue around this great work, and I think that's what the parents are involved with and everything like that. I think the supervisor and everything, the people who are running the planet, they're the ones who are involved with At Attin and the treasure, but I think the great work is something else. I honestly would not be surprised if the great work is the society itself. The way they have built society, it's this nice little peaceful suburban thing. I think the great work is the goal to spread.
Sounds like a
this.
political agenda movement.
Yeah,
like a
it's
you know,
it's
like a
it's their
society,
manifest
like a-
destiny.
Right.
Make
like,
the galaxy
Yeah,
great
the-
again, but
like a
they're gonna
social,
just
social
spread-
experiment.
Absolutely, and they want to spread it throughout the galaxy to be like, hey, look how great things were on this planet. You know, our kids live these lovely, peaceful lives and everything. They know nothing about war.
and they have the
you're-
wall. They have the wall just around the entire planet.
The
and
it's a
green
barrier.
and it's
a barrier.
cloud. Yeah,
It's,
wall.
the,
Yeah,
it's,
it's a
a
barrier.
wall.
And Alderaan
No, 'cause they
paid
went
for the
through
wall,
it.
damn it.
True.
yeah,
Alder, yeah,
If
that they don't
Alderaan
even
had
know
the
is
wall-
gone.
barrier.
Yeah, listen.
might have still been here. It's
Um,
ridiculous.
I think
so
we
do
need
you guys
a
have
High
any thoughts,
Republic
theories
expert
on-
in the chat.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say this, Ro, because I saw you or your partner post that in there. And Only's read the books with me too. I do remember Lena So talking about the great works. I do remember about the fair that
Right.
that was one of them. You know, and
Yes, yes, the
and
fair that got
and
raided.
it was the beginning of the Mon Calamari with the ship works and stuff like that as well too.
Mhm.
So I now that you mentioned that didn't click in my head. It could be singular for them because that's their great work,
well,
but it
that-
could be one
right.
of
and that could be
which
yeah, it could be one of because that they're the ones
right.
that are
And I think it's a
starting
financial
one.
institution. I think it's a
Right. They're the
financial
ones
institution.
that are
It's-
starting one, but by the time we hear the rest of the story about the great works,
They are the galactic accountants that keep all of this in track so the great works can happen. Okay. They are the comptroller of the Old Republic. Okay. That's what they are. And
they've
so
had
yeah,
nothing to
I
finance for however many years now.
listen,
like, hey,
they're
you
just
guys realize we've
stockpiling
been
it,
mining
which
gold
leads
forever.
to the treasure. They're just
Yeah, yeah,
stockpiling
yeah.
the credits.
Because the
You
droid
know what I
has
mean?
no monetary value with all these
Right.
coins. He's not going to want to spend
Right.
it. So he's
And
like,
I don't think
"Oh, yeah, I've
they
been
even
building
know.
this."
I don't think they even know there's a stockpile of it because it goes to the supervisors and the droids who are running everything, and they think it gets taken or whatever. So they might not even be aware that their planet is got this hoard of credits.
Yeah, because it
that
would
they're doing all this
cause
accounting
massive inflation. They'd be like, "Hey, I have 100
I don't know,
credits." It's
man.
Like, that's
Like I
crazy.
said-
we got 5 billion over there.
He handed what was apparently a treasure trove of credits to his son for lunch money.
Yeah, I know.
So,
So just imagine the
um,
amount that they must have stockpiled up over there. I mean, this must be the richest place
yeah.
in the entire galaxy.
But
But
yeah,
who
so
knows where this money is actually going? We don't know if it's still on the planet or
Yeah.
if it is going somewhere from the control.
I don't think it's going
forces.
anywhere because no one
The
knows
first order.
about this place.
It's the start
Yeah.
of the first order, guys. That's how they get the money.
They don't even know Alderaan
Obviously.
blown up. Okay,
Obviously, they're not taught.
yeah.
They're not. Hey, they're not taught it. But the deep state, the deep galaxy, right? They.
Oh yeah.
They.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Palpatine.
Yep.
It's not Palpatine, but it's the bald lady that was next to him.
We
in
built.
the blue
Yes,
suit as well.
We
exactly.
built 2 Death Stars. They didn't go very well. That was the previous administration. Now we're going to
We're
build a
building
Death
a
Star
third.
inside each and every Star Destroyer. It's the greatest fleet ever. They're all going to be able to do with one giant battle station did.
Nobody's
It's gonna
seen
be the
anything
greatest
like it.
fleet ever. No one's seen anything like it. I've been told. That's what I've been told. But yeah, I the great work. I can see that happening. And thank you for bringing it up, Rob, because like I said, it didn't click with me immediately because that was in the books, but it wasn't like it was just
Wasn't a
talked
topic of
about in the
discussion.
middle of everything else that was
Everything
happening.
else is
Yeah.
happening.
You know,
Yeah.
the fair
And
being
since-
blown up, all those
yeah,
people
and since
dying and all
they're
that
kind
shit.
of
You know what I mean?
Lost in time, and since they're kind of like
Yeah.
lost in time, separated from it, they're seeing the great works at the beginning of their
Yeah.
stage, and
Which leads to my
obviously-
prediction. I also said to Only that it's the High Republic, not the Old Republic, that they are.
Right? Yeah.
That would make sense too. I think there needs to be some like secret government thing behind the scenes where like if it is the High Republic, maybe you find out that the Republic had this idea of making this planet into like a peaceful paradise, kind of keeping it safe at the same time because you clearly need people to work there to
Maybe it's
get
like a
whatever
big
treasure or
test,
anything like that.
huge just test run.
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
of the
but
whole
I
ideology.
think it was kept so. I think it is beneficial to keep it secret, but it's also beneficial to keep it running because of whatever it's got going on there. So I think the either it could even be the Empire who's been running the show with this thing, where they're like,
Listen.
look, what would be the greatest thing? You spread peace throughout the galaxy, and you wipe everyone's memory of anything that came before. Just completely change history.
Of course, you're going to hide the planet that's a stockpile of your revenue. Of course, you are. You're not going to make that just.
Yeah.
You're going to put a barrier on it. You're going to keep it hidden, right? Because you don't need to know. It's like their cryptocurrency, right? You got to keep that on the DL. You
They
can't
have
be telling
stockpile of
everyone
Dogecoin.
That'll do
Hawk
wonders.
to a Bitcoin.
Hawk
Back
to
to
a
a
coin
Bitcoin.
resides from At Attin.
And you guys can invest in the new Chatooine coin that we just dropped today. It's called
Oh, is that
Chat.
out now?
it's called
When's the
Chat.
dump?
Tomorrow night once everybody buys.
Okay.
It's 100K a
Alright.
coin.
It's member coins. Member coins.
Oh, say
remember
speaking
coins?
speaking
I
of buying in a Chatooine, we had a super sticker earlier. Did we talk about that?
Oh yes, we did. Thank you for reminding me of that. I usually hit that, but we got so caught up. It was Katie Miller as usual. Katie Miller, thank you so much for the super sticker. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, someone's got to pay the light
It's
bills
gonna-
around
it's
here.
gonna
Speaking
go
of
towards the
bills,
great works.
what do you guys think this treasure is on At Attin? Because that's another thing they've been constantly teasing with all these pirates. All these pirates are like, oh, there's a treasure, it's a lost story, it's mythical or whatever. Clearly, whatever the great work is ties into this treasure. We've seen the picture of that room where they all walk into. That's 100%, in my opinion, not the treasure. That's not
No.
the real treasure. The real treasure, gentlemen, was the
Oh, here
skeleton
we
crew
go
we made
again.
along the way.
Here we go again.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Home. That's the real treasure.
Yeah,
is home.
that's the real treasure.
Goodbye.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be. I think there's gonna be Old Republic credits on there. So there's that is a treasure, if you will. But they don't realize it's a treasure.
Do you
But
think it's going to be that?
I
literal?
think it's myth, and the reason why it's myth is because it's one of the jewels of the Old Republic. And when something is hidden away, treasure hunters and pirates immediately think they're hiding money on there. It's X marks the spot. It's buried treasure. You know what I mean? That they're chasing the black pearl. Okay, that's what it is. But at the end of the day, it's not quite what they think it's gonna be. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think it's that literal, and again, they're gonna find that there's wealth because they're still using Old Republic credits. Okay, but I don't think it's gonna be like this, treasure trove I think it's mostly all caught up in myth and legend because it's this place that's no one's found. Tortuga hiding,
Tortuga. I think it'll be they're gonna walk into a room and kind of like what's that guy from the Matrix where it's just him and like all the TV screens and everything like that.
The architect.
The architect. I think they're gonna
Ergo.
walk into a room. It's gonna be George Lucas sitting in a room full of screens.
The
Yeah.
lost
Yeah.
treasure is the original cut of A New
Yeah.
Hope.
Oh,
That's
what
what
it
the
is?
treasure is.
You know what it's going to be because of the time frame we're in? It's going to be George Lucas's sequel trilogy drafts.
Yeah, the story treatments. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bob
I
Iger is going to
really
be sitting
wanted
on
to
the
give you that
throne in that room. He's going to say, "You're going to have to come through me to get these."
I created Star Wars, right? Oh, you did? Yeah. I created this whole thing.
They did a
How
whole thing
memes,
that's
bro?
way back with
Ha, ha.
freaking South Park, where they had to go get the lost films from
Yeah.
Skywalker Ranch.
Oh my God, yeah,
Skywalker
it's so
Ranch.
funny because people don't remember that there was a time George Lucas actually was shat on in pop culture for being kind of insane.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
the
kind of a
National Film
lunatic for that.
Archives, George. They want a copy of A New Hope. I'll give them the special edition cut. No, George, they want the original theatrical. I'm only giving them the special edition cut. But Palp memes, what is the treasure on At Attin? And why is it Chatooine? And the Chatooine show that we made all along.
It's the lost episodes of Chatooine.
Maybe it's Star Wars detours.
Kyber crystals. Fuck if I know. How am I supposed to answer this? I don't know.
Just a shot in the dark. Fucking kyber crystals.
Bro, I don't know.
The treasure's in your
Um,
heart, Palp memes. All right.
Maybe
That
maybe
was,
the treasure itself is just the planet, like this great society that's I don't fucking know. You know,
Bro,
Maybe
you
don't
know?
pick your mic while
So
you're
lofty.
talking.
well, there's stuff on it. There's fuzzes on it,
Ugh.
Might want to do that while it's
Ugh,
muted.
Mike.
All I
Yeah,
hear
probably. Yeah, probably. I didn't think it'd pick up.
Ro, what's the treasure on that Adden, and why is it you getting off this show as fast as possible because you can't deal with us idiots?
I think the treasure is something that's going to be a little bit more ethereal. I'm going to say that it's maybe it's a virgins in the Force. That's it. Mic drop.
The twins are reborn
actually
from
like
the
that.
acolyte. That's it.
That's it. Power of many.
Ro, why are you trying to come on this show and fucking trigger us? Huh? Why are you trying to trigger us, Ro? Why are you
I
doing
decided-
that?
Or many.
Okay.
Started.
We are scarred enough. Okay, we have enough trauma. Don't add to it. We're liking this show, please.
Your trauma is not bigger than my trauma. I had to.
Hey,
That's
we
what
all-
do here. We trauma.
We
dump.
all suffered through acolyte, okay?
My trauma is the worst trauma anyone's ever seen. I've been told no one's had worse trauma than me.
I've
No
got the
one
best-
sufferred
the
more
best
than me.
trauma. I've got the best trauma. The biggest.
I lost.
The slipperiest. Oh, that's something else. Sorry.
Sheev Palpatine. What a guy. God damn it.
Some
Let's
people
wrap
call
this-
him a dictator, but he's a pretty good guy.
He's very
Pretty good
smart.
guy. Yeah. Also, I'm launching a new coin. Let's give this episode a rating and then get out of here before we all get a little too high on the Chatooine fumes. I will start off this rating by saying I think it's just as good as episode 1 and a little better than episode 2. I gave episode 2 a 7. I gave episode 1 a 7.5. I'm giving this one a 7.5. Solid, fun, whimsical, charming, all that beautiful stuff. Just nothing that is like shocking, like with The Mandalorian, where you're like, wow, that really hit. I like the show. I don't love it yet, like I said, but I want to love it. I just want a little bit more. I would like to see some of these episodes hit like 8s and 9s. I don't think a 10 is even going to be possible with this show, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. A 7 and a 7.5, those are like, this is good. I don't really have any complaints, but I don't have anything to say that, oh my god, I love this scene. So this is a good start to the series. I'm excited to see where they go. Lunga, What is your rating for episode 3?
It's doing what it's supposed to. And it's doing for me, maybe, you know, Ro feels it too. I mean, I'm not saying you guys don't feel it, but we're old enough to, you know, remember when this started and how it felt when it, you know, when technology was not as great as it is nowadays. Them climbing into the gunner's thing and him saying, just go, trust me. And they go up there and they start shooting. It reminds me, Ro, remember the big sit down original Star Wars game?
Spent so many dollars on that.
You know, that was just that little reticle and you're sitting there trying to shoot things. I felt like I was back in there again, you know? I felt like Wim getting in there is like how I felt like when Han Solo got in there, like, oh, I'd love to be able to get in that turret. You know what I mean? It didn't do anything worse than the first 2 episodes. I don't think it did anything better than the first 2 episodes, but it took what the first 2 episodes did and it's growing on it and progressing the story. And adds a few little things as we go along, character development, stuff like that. So yeah, I'll just keep it at the same 7.5 because, like I said, it hasn't done anything worse, hasn't done anything better. It's continuing what it needs to do, and it's hitting the spots it needs to hit. I agree with you. Only, you know, we haven't gotten any wow moments, and I got to be honest with you. I don't think when we watch all these other shows, we're like, what's the big reveal is going to be? What's this? What's that? You know, I don't think this is going to have a big wow moment. It's going to have a fulfilling moment at the end. It's going to be that kind of like kid show is, that fulfillment of a story, you know. So I don't think it's going to have that big wow moment or blow me away moment. So I'm actually tempering myself. I'm not expecting that or waiting for that. So that's not going to dullen my enjoyment of the show because I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, no, I get that. And for me, like the wow moment wouldn't even have to be like a Luke, I am your father thing. For me, even like Andor on Aldhani, where, you know, they finally do the heist and then they go through the eye thing and the big, beautiful sky and all that stuff. That's a really good Star Wars moment and a wow moment that I think this show should possibly have a couple of them. I think if they do, it will elevate the show in a lot of ways. But
we said comedy earlier, and I forgot to mention there was one part that did make me laugh out loud. When he's like, I'll just snap the hose, the fuel line. And he pulls, and he's like, that's a pretty sturdy fuel line.
Well,
because let's think about it. If he did it and it didn't break, wouldn't we all be saying,
sure,
really? A starship can't break a fuel line? What the hell? Why did he's that's a pretty sturdy fuel line. And he's just going around in a circle.
Well, it's Force Awakens. You know, they did that with Finn and the TIE Fighter.
Yeah. I do remember
but this was done better.
I remember Force Awakens. I like that movie.
I actually watched that the other week, funny enough.
It's
But
my
Palpatine's-
favorite. It's my favorite of the new ones.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%,
It's good.
100%.
It's all right. It's all right.
Oh, don't even try to save face in front of a guest. All right, Ro, this man. Popsicle.
Go on.
Ro.
No, go. Continue.
Let's go down memory lane.
Continue,
Yeah,
please. Say what you're gonna say.
Palpamemes, you know what? Just give me your fucking rating for episode.
Well,
3. Give me your rating.
So I gave the first 2 episodes a 6.5 out of 10, and some people are like, that's blasphemy. I mean, that's very fair. I think the show's, it's decent. I enjoy it. It's nothing crazy. I don't need it to be anything crazy, but it's decent. And the biggest thing that I'm picking up so far is it's very consistent. We're 3 episodes in, and all 3 episodes feel like one episode per se, if it makes any sense at all. Like it doesn't feel like there's a bunch of different writers, bunch of different directors coming in. Even though there is different directors, it still feels consistent in pretty much tone and quality.
Oh,
and
like there's an actual story writer.
Important. Yeah, maybe there's actually something leading this entire team instead of a bunch of random nonsense happening in a story that's just jumbled together from a bunch of different pieces, right? But we're only 3 episodes in. I still will say I enjoyed the first 2 a lot, not even a lot more, but a decent amount more. Maybe it's because I just enjoy the foundational start of a story and stuff, them at home with the school and stuff. Maybe I had more oomph to it because of that. It was just interesting to see. But I still enjoyed this episode, and because I gave those a 6.5, I'm going to give this one a straight 6 out of 10. It was fine. It was intriguing. I was like, cool, this is fine. Episode 4, I think, needs to be, you know, kind of that thing that really, really gets this thing going when it comes to, okay, now I'm like really invested, because right now I'm just like, they're going to find their way home. So they're really hindering on what's going to happen next when they get to their home. So 6 out of 10 for me.
Hey, only.
What about you,
Only. Before we go, you remember when Palpameme thought Rise of Skywalker was the best Star Wars movie ever made?
Yeah, remember Alex? Oh, I remember.
Well, you know, I am young after all. You know, like we grow up. We go through phases. You know, it's just a phase, Lunga.
I grew out of the prequels when I was 10 years old. I was fighting.
Okay, that's because
fights.
you're like a 40-year-old man in a 10-year-old's body.
Yeah.
All right. You
I
don't know
remember
how.
going to the People versus George Lucas movie premiere back in 2011. I got a special invite. But Ro,
Oh.
what did you rate episode 3 of Skeleton Crew?
You guys are funny, man. You remind me of those kids in the play yard that claim that they don't like something just to be cool. Come on, 6.5. Come on, let's go.
That's a good
he's
score.
He's harsh.
That's a good score. That's good. Like 5 is like
Hey, what
5
you
is
mean?
for me. Just so we get on the same page, bro. For me, when it comes to my ratings, 5 is right down the middle of like, it's just fine. Anything above that would be like decent to good to great to fantastic.
So we're not going
Anything
with the
below
golden rating of
5.
5 is mediocre.
I guess mediocre would consist of it's just okay, it's decent, wouldn't we say?
Well, you basically said is it's just above mediocre. That's
Yeah,
what you said.
right. It's like it's nothing crazy, but I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's decent. I
For
enjoy
me,
it.
8 is like good.
8's got to
9
be
is
like
great,
really good,
10 is like
and then 9 and
amazing.
10's just fantastic.
7
Yeah,
needs to
but
be like it's a
I-
solid series.
Yeah, I'll
I
give
don't
him
rate
this,
it like
though.
you rate like a school test where like anything below
I'll-
60% a fail.
I'll give him this.
Yeah,
It's a very subjective 6.5. It's not the writing's bad, the show sucks. It's just it's not his cup of tea. I think that's
And I went
that's
into the
just-
show knowing that this show's not really what I'm looking for when it comes to Star Wars,
Right.
but I'm still going to be open-minded. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Well,
I
make some sense of this.
the last 2 episodes we gave like a 7.5. I enjoyed this episode a lot more than the first 2 episodes, so I'm going to jump it to an 8. And the only reason that it's not a 10 is because Anakin here didn't show up to have a conversation with the younglings. That would make it a 10, but that's another
Do
story.
you think Ahsoka showing up would have made you appreciate this a little bit more?
Oh, no, I'm still on board, guys. Ahsoka and Luke are showing up. They're going to show up to this planet to see what's going on.
I'm just waiting for
Right.
Ahsoka Tano making another.
She'll show
turn.
up. She'll show up. But no, like I said, I enjoyed this one a lot more than the first 2. We got a lot of answers. We got a lot of nice little, story nuggets and nudge, wink, wink about certain things. The characters were great. The dynamic between the 2 groups of kids are still something really cool to see, and can't wait to see more. Obviously, the show is definitely keeping my interest more so than the previous Star Wars show, and I'm enjoying it. Can't wait for the next for the next episode.
I hope we can get a banger. That's a word that has been trademarked here on the Chatooine show.
I think
It's actually first
episode 4
mentioned
is a lot hinging
on
on it.
Chatooine. I know, but I do agree with you, Palmemes. By the time episode 4 comes around, this is a catch-22 for me because part of me think this is basically going to be The Mandalorian season 1 over again, where episodes 4 and episodes 5 and maybe even episode 6 are going to be kind of fun filler side missions. We got
I hate that, but that's Disney Plus.
I know, but like
Well,
even with the
they're going to be
Mandalorian,
going
I thought it
back
worked.
to At Attin, either in the next
Soon.
episode or the one after. But I think it's the next episode. To be honest with you, They're
Really?
going
You
back
think
to
they're
How many
going back that
episodes?
soon?
6 or
I
8?
think 8.
8?
Yeah.
That's the halfway point. Next episode is the halfway point.
Well, there's
I
so
don't know,
much to
I-
unravel with
Right,
that.
but what
pilot.
Yeah,
happens?
I
I mean,
feel like
what
there's a good amount
happens?
to unravel,
Yeah, what
but I
happens
feel like they go back
dramatically
too
if
soon.
they're on the planet? I mean, besides avoiding the pirates,
Treasure
getting
hunt.
there.
Then all these-
Figure out what's going on the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
I
That is true.
I almost thought that this series is going to be the adventures that were outside the planet, getting back to the planet, and then
Possibly.
Me too.
they
You know,
finally
I
get
think-
to the planet, and maybe if
Yeah.
if the numbers are good, they might have done a season 2. But I think that's where I thought this was going to be, is just the adventures that the kids and the pirates are having outside the planet. But we do see kind of a little bit of a spoiler situation. In one of the promotional images, you see the dad
yeah.
with the kids on the ship. So, Lunga, you could be right. Next week they could arrive, and obviously the Owl Lady, when the Rangers of the New Republic or whatever ask where do you think they're going, and she turns around to the camera and says, "You won't believe if I told you." Foo.
Yeah.
Da-da-da.
Which
I
I
will
believe in some
say-
materials, in some material or something, they actually called them Rangers of the New Republic. So they are what the show
yeah, somewhere. Yeah.
was supposed to be.
A little,
Well, I want to say
little
real quick,
reference.
I I think they're gonna track that ship that they're on to this place and all these pirates, and it's basically gonna be a little.
Also,
war
there's something
going on
about that
down there.
ship because you noticed, Jod when he saw it, he's like, "That's your." Like he recognized something about
I
the
don't. I
model.
see. I picked it up more as like
That's
that
a-
ship, like
right,
a
that's
what
a
a piece
piece
of
of
It doesn't
junk
look
shit.
like
Right.
it doesn't look like
Yeah,
a
I
piece of
picked
junk
it
on
up
the
that
outside
way.
though. It didn't
Well,
look
more
that
of
bad on the
like-
outside.
It was smelly. You can see that there were debris all over it. It was
Then
like
there's
it
like
a
was
gas
cloud.
like Pigpen from the Charlie Brown cartoons.
Yeah, but I think they'll have a big battle. It sounds kind of silly, but like a big because it's a kid with the foundation of the show. These kids and stuff. I do think we'll get a pretty decent sized battle towards the end of it and stuff, and that's when the New Republic's going to come in and.
I think
That
you
might
need that. I think
set
the
up
show needs a
something else.
battle-ish thing. I mean, it is called Star Wars, but I do think.
Do we get some kind of flashback for Jod? Do you think in any of these episodes?
He says in episode 7 you're gonna get to know a lot more about his character.
Yeah, he said by
he-
episode
he-
7.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you get a flashback though. I don't think this show needs a flashback like
No.
that, honestly. And
Right.
I think the pacing of the show so far, to me, if episode 7 we get a lot of information about his character, I think episode 7 is going to be the beginning of the egg cracking, where you get so much information in episode 7, and in episode 8 they do wrap up everything with Attin and kind of what can come from that. But honestly, even thinking about the future of like this being a series, getting a season 2, so far I would actually be okay with this only being one season, and I mean that in like a good way.
Sure.
Because this idea of doing a season 2, I'm tired of what we've done with Disney Plus, where oh yeah, season 2's coming for Skeleton Crew. It's releasing in 2030. You're like, well, I don't care anymore if I'm waiting that long for this. These kids are young, and they already talked about the possibility of a season 2 and doing this with the kids aging and all that stuff. But that's risky business to me. I think if they're gonna do a season 2, it should have already been planned out, written, and ready to go. I don't.
I
know
just
if
thought
the
about something.
Viewership for season 1. Go ahead.
We haven't gotten anything about where did the ship come from, right? Where it was buried. Where
Oh
did the ship
yeah,
come
I
from?
wanted to talk about that too. The ship is clearly an old Republic ship, so maybe that's why he recognized it. It's got something to do with the Republic.
I don't know, because there were pirates. Because the droid is talking about how they were pirates coming to look for treasure. You know what I mean? So we don't know. It may not
that is
be
true.
that old. But to piggyback, since Ro made me think even more about Wim's dad. What if Wim's dad was a pirate that crashed there and he integrated himself in, and his ship was hidden there?
And what if he knew
that'd be kinda
Jod?
cool. Yeah.
That'd be a
I
good.
don't know.
wild
I don't
moment,
think.
like
I don't think there's a connection to Jod. I think that's just.
Well,
gonna
I
be
think it's
part
just
of
stories
what
he's
could
heard
be.
of. These pirates went to go search for this lost treasure and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, it was real. Oh, we know where."
Because
it's
he
at
like
now."
says he seems really sweaty with anything regarding this ship. Just.
I think
sweaty.
it's mostly him knowing that them leaving and all that stuff. I think he knows the only way he can get his kids back is basically I got to leave the planet now too. I think that's why he was so nervous at the end of that opening scene and everything like
Maybe.
that. But let's wrap this bad boy up, Lunga. Let's bring up the Chatooine show calendar and see what we're doing and not doing for the next week or so. Next week, December 18th, we're covering episode 4 of Skeleton Crew before the 2-week break. After that, enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your New Year's. I know we will be enjoying ours, but we're returning in the new year, January 8th, for a recap of Skeleton Crew. Episodes 5 through 7, we'll be covering all that. So that's next month here on Chatooine. So we will be back next week. Ro, thank you so much for coming back on. I know you like spending time with Scum and Villainy. Do you have any parting words for our guest? Where can we find you, sir?
Just turn to your smart speaker and tell Siri to play the latest Scare Scuttlebutt podcast wherever you find your other favorite podcasts.
Hey, Siri, play Scarif.
It'll work.
I hope so. I don't have a Siri, so I'll be kind of terrified if anything responds
Yeah,
back.
yeah, right.
But thanks for coming back on, Ro. We always love having you. Of course, come back anytime. Become part of this little skeleton crew we got going on here. We have a dead porg in the background of one of them, and then Lungus killed like 5 guys and took all their helmets in their background. So we're just kind of adding. To the pile of
We
bodies
also
that
I
we
do have George also.
Oh, I forgot. We kidnapped George Lucas.
Yeah. I don't think Rose ever seen George. You never seen George.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
This is what Carbonite Freeze does to you after 40
I'm the
years.
special guest of the Chatooine show. I make an appearance every now and then. It's a pleasure to be here.
I invented it.
Still does not finance anything. Multi-billion-dollar man, $2 billion in Disney stock. I can only imagine the fuck you dividends he gets from that.
I'm waiting for my email, him thanking me about going on this journey with him.
If anyone is going to get an email from George Lucas in this fandom, it's fucking me. I just know it. All right, he's
going to get a cease and desist letter, is what you're going to get.
Yeah, I know. He's stop talking about my ex-wife Marcia. Fuck you, and stop bringing her up. I did these myself. I'm sorry, George. Before we close the show tonight, though, of course, big shout out to all the channel members. We remember you, that you love to remember. Grievous Reborn, Tom, Katie Miller, my boy, your boy, that cloney boy. And to close this out, just want to say thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Talk more about some Skeleton Crew episode 4 before we go on a nice little Christmas and New Year's break. So be there or be square, my friends. We'll see you all next time here on the Chatooine Show. May the Force be with you always.